Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss this question, that is, are tradition and modernity antithetical to each other? Comment. Are tradition and modernity antithetical to each other? Comment. Here again, you have to divide your answer framework in three parts, that is introduction, then main body, and then conclusion. So you can introduce your answer by just explaining what exactly tradition and modernity means. What exactly tradition and modernity means. This is the first way you can introduce your answer. And in second way, if you want to write a very decent answer, in my opinion, so you can introduce how modernity arrived in Europe, and when modernity arrived in Europe, and how like the modernity as a process started in Europe by questioning the tradition. And by time, the relationship between tradition and modernity, or the dynamic relationship between the tradition and modernity, has been changed. Then comes your main body. Within the main body, you have to divide your main body in two parts. Within the first part, you have to write in the support of this statement. That is, the tradition and modernity is antithetical to each other. Just write a subheading, the tradition and modernity antithetical to each other. And within that, you have to write how the modernity destroyed the traditional structure in Europe. So as you all know, modernity in Europe comes under three phases. The first phase is value modernity, or we can call it ideological modernity, value modernity, in the form of Renaissance. And how this value modernity destroyed the religious value, that time prevalent tradition. The religious value were replaced by secular values, humanistic value, rational values. Thereafter comes the period of institutional transformation or institutional modernity in the form of democracy, constitution, nuclear family, bank, education systems, and how these institution transformation destroyed the at that time existing traditional structure of feudal system, monarchy, etc. And third phase of modernity was technological modernity in the form of industrial revolution, and how this industrial revolution destroyed the traditional structure of economic system, like domestic production, how the factory system of production destroyed the domestic system of production. So this is how modernity impacted Europe. This is how modernity impacted Europe. And in Europe specifically, modernity is antithetical to the tradition. Modernity established itself by destroying the traditional and then existing traditional social structures. And here you can give example by mentioning thinkers like Durkheim's idea of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity, by giving example of Weber idea of traditional authority versus legal rational authority, then by giving examples of Parsons' idea of pattern variable A and pattern variable B, and then by giving examples of Ralph Linton ideas of inscription-based society or ascription-based society to achievement-based society. So this is how you have to write how tradition and modernity are antithetical to each other. And second, in second part of your main body, just write a subheading like tradition and modernity are not antithetical to each other, where you have to give examples from India. So in India, when modernity arrives, and here modernity in terms of sociological sense, as of event, I'm talking about, not in terms of whatever you have in your mind. So you have to write in sociological sense. So in India, when modernity arrived with the advent of European invaders, then here modernity negotiated with tradition. Modernity negotiated with tradition, and now they are coexist in Indian society. So tradition and modernity both exist in Indian society. So here, in case of India, modernity negotiated with tradition. And here you can give example. Here you can give example of Milton Singer. Milton Singer, who used the concept of little tradition and great tradition by of explaining modernity in India or impact of modernization in India. So he claimed like the India to be a primary civilization. So the elite came from the grassroots. So elite who constitute the great tradition came from the little tradition. So they don't discard the whole value system of the little tradition. They carry and respect the traditional structure followed by the little tradition. And there he gives the concept how India or how modernity impacted India. So in fact, in India, there is no modernization of Indian tradition, but what can be seen as Indianization of modernization. So you have give the example of Milton Singer. Then you can give the example of McKim Marriott. McKim Marriott, who gave the concept of universalization and parochialization. You can also give example of M.N. Srinivas concept of westernization. M.N. Srinivas concept of westernization, in which he explained how the British introduced changes in three different structure of Indian society. And what are these three different structure? That is technology, value, and institutions. But how this change did not displaces Indian cultural foundation. So change occur in India without altering the culture. So you can give one or two example by using technology in terms of transportation, printing press, radio, any one of them. Then institution like how school, colleges provided space for learning of classical knowledge beside the modern education system. And how value like traditional value relationship present in modern institution does not impacted the traditional value system. So Indian follows their tradition in their private sphere. So this is how you have to write the second part of your main body, in which you write how tradition and modernity are not antithetical to each other. Then write your conclusion by mentioning how modernity and tradition and the relationship between these two depends on time and space in which we are studying. So it depends where you are studying the impact of modernity on tradition. If you study modernity, impact of modernity in European society, you form or you see the antithetical relationship between tradition and modernity. Whereas if you study impact of modernity in India, then you form how modernity negotiated with tradition and now they coexist simultaneously within a Indian society. So this is how you have to write your conclusion.